The scream of tires. The crunch of metal. The world spinning. Then darkness. I woke to the steady beep of a heart monitor and a sharp smell of antiseptic. My head throbbed, and when I tried to move, pain shot through my left side. A nurse appeared above me, her face a blur before my vision cleared. "Mrs. Lawson? Can you hear me? You've been in an accident." The words registered, but felt disconnected from reality. As my mind slowly pieced together fragments of memory, the door opened, and David, my husband of 5 years, rushed in, his face pale with what looked like concern. "Sarah. Oh, thank God you're awake." He grabbed my hand, squeezing it too tightly. I was so worried. I stared at him, at the tension in his jaw, the slight tremor in his hand. Something felt off. For weeks before the accident, there had been a distance between us that neither of us acknowledged. Late nights at the office. Vague explanations. The faint scent of unfamiliar perfume. And that's when it hit me. I could remember everything: the argument we'd had before I stormed out of the house and got into my car, the text message I'd glimpsed on his phone 2 days earlier, the way he'd been pulling away for months. But David didn't know that. "Who are you?" I whispered, the lie slipping from my lips before I'd fully formed the plan. David's eyes widened in shock. He turned to the nurse. "She doesn't remember me? What's wrong with her?" The nurse moved closer, checking my pupils with a penlight. "Memory loss can be a side effect of head trauma. I'll get the doctor." As they both left the room, I closed my eyes, heart racing. Could I really do this? Pretend to have amnesia? It seemed cruel, manipulative even. But then I remembered the text message, * missing you already. Last night was incredible *. Yes, I could do this. For once, I would see the truth, see the people in my life for who they really were when they thought I couldn't remember how they were supposed to act around me. Starting with my husband. Dr. Morris called it dissociative amnesia triggered by traumatic brain injury. He explained to David that I remembered basic functions and general knowledge, but personal memories, my history, relationships, emotional connections, were temporarily blocked. "Will she recover?" David asked, and I caught something in his voice. Relief? Fear? Most patients do, but the timeline varies. Could be days, weeks, sometimes longer. The brain is still somewhat mysterious to us. Dr. Morris turned to me with a reassuring smile. "The important thing is to avoid pressure. Don't force memories. Let them return naturally." I nodded, playing my part. Over the next 2 days, I met my parents, my sister Emma, my best friend Naomi, and various colleagues who came to visit. I studied their faces, their reactions to my condition. Most seemed genuinely distressed, especially my mother, who cried and held my hand for hours. The nurses were kind, explaining my injuries. 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, laceration to my forehead requiring 20 stitches, and the concussion that supposedly wiped my memory. I was lucky to be alive after my car had been T-boned at an intersection. David visited daily, bringing flowers and sitting awkwardly beside my bed. On the 3rd day, as we sat in uncomfortable silence, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then quickly tucked it away. "Who was that?" I asked innocently. "Just work," he replied too quickly. "Nothing important." I smiled vaguely. "You never told me what you do for work." "I'm an investment banker. We've been married for 5 years." He hesitated. "Do you remember anything about us?" I tilted my head, pretending to search empty spaces in my mind. "Not really." "What are we like together?" His smile seemed forced. "We're happy. Very happy. We met at a charity gala. You were working for the event planning company, and I was representing my firm. We got married after dating for a year." All true, and yet the rehearsed way he said it made it sound hollow. Do we have children? I asked, knowing full well we'd been trying unsuccessfully for 2 years. Pain flashed across his face. No. We don't. That reaction, at least, seemed genuine. I'm sorry, I said softly. This must be hard for you, caring for a wife who doesn't know you. He squeezed my hand, but his eyes darted to his phone again. I'm just glad you're alive. 5 days after the accident, I was discharged. David drove me to our modern 2-story home in the suburbs, the house we'd bought with such excitement 3 years ago. I pretended to take it all in for the first time, noting the tasteful but impersonal decor that we'd never quite finished because we were both too busy with our careers. This is our bedroom, David said, showing me into the master suite with its king-sized bed and view of the backyard. I'll be sleeping in the guest room until you're comfortable, or remember. Thank you, I murmured. That's thoughtful. After he left, I examined the room carefully. My things were exactly as I'd left them before the accident, the novel on the nightstand, my jewelry box, the framed photo of David and me in Bali on our honeymoon. I opened the closet, running my fingers along my clothes, then checked the bathroom. Nothing seemed out of place or removed. That night, David cooked dinner, pasta with store-bought sauce, one of the few things he knew how to make. Over the meal, he filled me in on our life together, carefully edited highlights that painted a picture of domestic bliss. We usually go to the Bahamas in winter, he said. You love the beach. I hate sand and sunburn. I prefer mountains and forests. He knew this once. You're an event coordinator at Lewis and Bell. Very successful. You were actually up for a promotion before. He gestured vaguely to my bandaged head. And you? I asked. Are you successful too? He smiled, the first genuine expression I'd seen. Yes. Senior VP now. Been working toward partner for the last year. At what cost? I wanted to ask, but instead said, I'm sure I was very proud of you. His phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, then stood abruptly. Excuse me. Work call. I need to take this. He stepped onto the back patio, closing the door behind him. I waited 10 seconds, then quietly moved to the kitchen window where I could see him but remain hidden. His face was animated as he spoke, a smile playing on his lips, an expression he hadn't shown me since I woke up in the hospital. When he returned, I was back at the table, pushing pasta around my plate. Everything okay at work? I asked. Just a client issue. He cleared his throat. So, the doctor said familiar routines might help trigger memories. Maybe tomorrow I could show you around the neighborhood, take you to your favorite cafe. I nodded. I'd like that. Later, alone in our bedroom, I opened the drawer of my nightstand where I kept my journal. It was still there. I flipped to the entries from the weeks before my accident, reading my own suspicions, my growing certainty that David was having an affair, likely with Rebecca Palmer, the new legal counsel at his firm. The woman he'd introduced to me at the company Christmas party with too much enthusiasm and too little eye contact. I returned the journal to its hiding place and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. The last entry, written the day of my accident, *, I'm going to confront him tonight. I can't live with the uncertainty anymore. I deserve the truth, *. But now I had a different way to find it. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee. Wrapping myself in a robe, I made my way downstairs to find David already dressed in running clothes, sweaty and drinking from a water bottle. Morning, he said. I made coffee. Wasn't sure how you take it now. Now? I mean, if you remember how you like it. I stared at the coffee machine. I don't know. You used to drink it black. 2 shots of espresso. I poured myself a cup and sipped it black, hiding my distaste. I actually preferred it with cream and sugar but had switched to black coffee a year ago when trying to lose weight that David had subtly suggested I could stand to lose. It's good, I lied. Did you sleep well? Well enough. I need to shower and head to the office for a few hours. Will you be okay alone? Your sister said she could come by later. I think I can manage. Maybe I'll explore the house, see if anything jogs my memory. He nodded, relief evident in his posture. Great idea. Feel free to look at our photo albums too. They're in the living room bookcase. After he left, I did exactly that. But I also did something else, something the old Sarah might have considered unethical. I checked his laptop. To my surprise, it wasn't password protected. Either he'd grown careless or he didn't expect an amnesiac wife to snoop. His emails were mostly work-related, nothing incriminating. But then I noticed the browser was still logged into his personal Gmail account. I hesitated only briefly before clicking. There it was, an entire conversation thread with rebecap@gmail.com. Dozens of messages over the past 3 months. Intimate, explicit at times. Plans made. Hotels booked. Lies coordinated. The most recent email was from yesterday, *, this is getting complicated. I don't know how long this amnesia thing will last. Maybe we should cool it for a few weeks until things settle down. I can't leave her like this, *. Rebecca's response came just 2 hours ago, *, I understand the timing is bad, but I miss you. Meet me for lunch today? The usual place at 1 p.m., *. My hand shook as I carefully closed the laptop, returning it exactly as I'd found it. The pain was both fresh and familiar, confirmation of what I'd already suspected but couldn't prove. But now I had my answer. And David had failed the test spectacularly. Emma arrived around noon with grocery bags and a forced cheerfulness that grated on my nerves. I brought your favorite snacks, she announced. Well, what used to be your favorites? Dark chocolate almonds, those weird cheese crackers you like, and those green tea mints. All accurate. It touched me that she remembered such small details. Thanks, I said. Do you think you could tell me about yourself? About us? We sat in the living room as she filled me in. Emma was 2 years younger, an elementary school teacher, divorced 3 years ago from a man I apparently never liked. We'd been close our whole lives, though we'd drifted somewhat in recent years, my busy career, her messy divorce. You were my rock during the split with Keith, she said, eyes watery. You let me crash here for 2 months when I couldn't stand to be in our old apartment. David was less enthusiastic about the arrangement, but he tolerated it for your sake. I nodded. This aligned with my actual memories. Emma had always seen through David's polished exterior. What about my marriage? I asked carefully. Were we happy? Emma hesitated, picking at a thread on the sofa cushion. You seemed happy. You've both been really busy with your careers the past year or so. David's been working late a lot. But? She looked up, surprised. What makes you think there's a but? Your tone. The way you paused. A small smile. You always could read me, memory or not. She sighed. Look, I don't want to influence you with my opinions. You should discover your own feelings about your marriage. Please, Emma. I'm lost here. I need some truth to hold on to. She leaned forward. Okay. I think the past year has been harder than you let on. You called me a few times, upset about David's distance. You suspected he might be involved with someone at work. Did I have proof? Not that you shared with me. Just intuition. But your intuition was usually right. She squeezed my hand. The week before your accident, you seemed especially tense. You canceled our lunch date because you said you needed to figure some things out. I felt a surge of affection for my sister. Even now, she was trying to be honest without demolishing my world, a world she thought was newly blank. Thank you for telling me, I said. I appreciate your honesty. Always. She hesitated again. Sarah, whatever you discover while you're like this, remember that you're strong. You've always been the stronger one between us. I blinked back tears. I'm not so sure about that. I am. Her phone chimed. That's the school. I need to get back for a parent meeting. Will you be okay? Do you want me to come back after? I'll be fine. David should be home soon. The lie came easily. After Emma left, I checked the time, 1:15 p.m. David was at the usual place with Rebecca right now. I went upstairs and changed into jeans and a blouse, applied minimal makeup to cover the fading bruises, and carefully removed the bandage from my forehead. The stitches were ugly but no longer needed covering according to the discharge instructions. I ordered an Uber and headed to the one place I knew my husband would never expect to see me. Café Lucerne was an upscale bistro downtown, known for its privacy and discretion, perfect for business lunches or illicit meetings. David had taken me there exactly once, for our anniversary 2 years ago. I remembered him mentioning that his firm often used it for client meetings. I asked for a table with a view of the main dining area but partially concealed by a decorative screen. The hostess didn't recognize me, which was a relief. I ordered sparkling water and waited, scanning the room. And there they were, in a corner booth, heads bent close together. David's back was to me, but I could see Rebecca perfectly, sleek dark hair, expertly tailored blazer, leaning forward with an intensity that spoke of more than professional interest. As I watched, her hand reached across the table to touch his. My water arrived. I sipped it slowly, forcing myself to breathe normally. I wasn't here to confront them, not yet. I just needed to see it with my own eyes. They stayed for nearly 2 hours. I ordered a salad I barely touched and watched as they shared dessert, heads still close, laughing intimately. When the check came, David paid in cash, no credit card trail. They left separately. Rebecca first, with a discreet but lingering touch to his shoulder. David remained for another 10 minutes, checking his phone, before he too departed. I waited 5 more minutes, then paid my bill and left. The Uber ride home was a blur of swallowed tears and practiced breathing. By the time I arrived back at the house, I had composed myself and was ready for the next act in this painful performance. David returned at 6:30, carrying takeout bags from a local Thai restaurant, my favorite. Thought you might enjoy this, he said cheerfully. The doctor said familiar tastes might help trigger memories. That's thoughtful, I replied. How was work? Tedious. He unpacked the food. Lots of meetings. Nothing exciting. Any interesting people at your office I should know about? Maybe people I've met before? He paused almost imperceptibly. Not really. My team is pretty boring. Corporate types. No one named Rebecca? I kept my tone light, curious. His hand froze midway to setting down a container. Rebecca? Oh, Rebecca Palmer. She's newish. Legal department. Why do you ask? I found an old text on my phone mentioning her. Something about a Christmas party. Just trying to piece things together. Right. Company Christmas party last year. You met her briefly. He seemed relieved at my explanation. How was your day? Did Emma come by? I let him change the subject, describing my invented day of rest and exploration. Over dinner, he asked if anything had seemed familiar, and I gave him crumbs of hope, mentioned liking the view from our bedroom window, recognized a photo of us from a beach trip. That's great progress, he said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. The doctor said memories might return in fragments. After dinner, as we sat in the living room with forced casualness, I decided to push further. David, were we having problems? Before my accident? He stiffened. Why would you ask that? Just a feeling. Sometimes when you look at me, you seem, I don't know. Guilty? Sad? He set down his wine glass. We were fine. Every marriage has ups and downs, but we were solid. He paused. You were working late a lot. I was working late. We were like ships passing sometimes. Were we happy though? Of course we were happy. The defensiveness in his tone betrayed him. Look, this is probably overwhelming for you. Maybe we should table this conversation until you're feeling stronger. I nodded, playing the docile, confused wife. You're right. I'm tired anyway. Think I'll head to bed early. Relief washed over his face. Good idea. I'll clean up down here. As I climbed the stairs, I heard him immediately take out his phone and start texting. I didn't need to see the screen to know who was on the receiving end. The next few days established a pattern. David left early for work, returned late, and was constantly checking his phone. I pretended to be recovering, occasionally mentioning small remembered details to keep him believing my amnesia was genuine but slowly improving. My mother visited daily, fussing over me with genuine concern. My father came twice, uncomfortable with sickness but trying his best. Naomi, my best friend since college, came with magazines and gossip, treating me exactly as she always had, a refreshing change from everyone walking on eggshells. A week after the accident, Dr. Morris cleared me to drive again and returned to work part-time the following week. My physical injuries were healing well, and he was cautiously optimistic about my memory eventually returning. That evening, as David and I ate another takeout dinner in near silence, his phone rang. He glanced at it, then at me. I need to take this. Work. He stepped onto the patio again, closing the door behind him. This time, I didn't bother to eavesdrop. I knew what I would hear. Instead, I went upstairs to our bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted by the charade I was maintaining. How long could I keep this up? What was the endgame? Would I wait until my memory conveniently returned, then confront him with what I'd learned? Or would I continue this deception indefinitely, watching him squirm as he balanced his double life? When David came upstairs 30 minutes later, I was still sitting there, staring at nothing. Sarah? You okay? He sounded genuinely concerned. I looked up at him, at the face I'd loved for so many years. The face that had promised to cherish me forever. The face that now lied to me daily. No, I said softly. I don't think I am. He sat beside me, careful to maintain distance. What's wrong? Are you in pain? Should I call the doctor? I remembered something today. His body tensed. That's good. What did you remember? I remembered how it feels to know someone is lying to you. The silence between us stretched, thick with unspoken truths. I don't understand, he finally said. Don't you? I turned to face him fully. I saw you today, David. At Café Lucerne. With Rebecca. His face drained of color. What were you doing there? Not a denial. Not even an attempt at one. Following my instincts, I replied. Something told me I'd find you there. He stood, pacing the room. You shouldn't be going places alone. You're still recovering. You could have gotten lost or... Stop it. My voice was steel. Stop pretending to care about my well-being when you've been cheating on me for months. He froze. Months? How would you know? Understanding dawned on his face. You remember. You've remembered all along. I didn't answer immediately, watching him process the implications. It was a test, he finally said. This whole amnesia thing. You were testing me. Yes. Jesus, Sarah. He ran a hand through his hair. That's sick. Do you know how worried I've been? How guilty I've felt? Guilty about my accident, or guilty about fucking Rebecca while your injured wife was at home believing your lies? He flinched at my language. It's not that simple. It never is with affairs, I said. But my test was simple. I wanted to see who would reveal their true selves when they thought I couldn't remember how they were supposed to act. I stood up, steadier than I'd felt in days. You failed spectacularly. I never wanted to hurt you. The cliché nearly made me laugh. And yet, here we are. What are you going to do? He asked, and I heard the fear in his voice, not fear of losing me, but fear of what this would mean for his comfortable life, his reputation, his money. I'm going to stay with Emma for a while. I already called her earlier. She's expecting me tonight. You're leaving? Just like that? Yes, David. Just like that. The way you left our marriage the moment you decided your vows were optional. He moved toward me. Can we talk about this? Really talk? I made mistakes, but... No. I stepped back. I've watched you lie to my face for over a week. I've given you multiple opportunities to be honest, to show some integrity. You chose otherwise. So this was all just a trap? A way to catch me? It started as a moment of impulse when I woke up in that hospital bed. It became a revelation. I picked up the packed bag I'd hidden in the closet earlier. I learned who still loves the real me, memory or not. And who never really did. He stood in stunned silence as I walked past him to the door. I'll have Emma come with me to get the rest of my things later this week. I suggest you not be here when we do. Sarah, please. His voice cracked, finally showing genuine emotion. 5 years. We can't just throw away 5 years. I turned back one last time. You already did. Emma was waiting when the Uber dropped me off, door open and arms ready. She held me as I finally let the tears come, not just for David's betrayal, but for my own deception, for the death of what I'd thought our marriage was. You knew, didn't you? I asked later, curled on her couch with a blanket and the strongest tea she could brew. That I was faking? She smiled sadly. I suspected. You kept having these little reactions that seemed too Sarah. The way you wrinkled your nose at that jasmine tea I brought you, just like you always have. The questions you asked. They were too specific, too aimed at things only the real Sarah would care about. Why didn't you say anything? Because I figured you had your reasons. She squeezed my hand. And because I trust you, memory or not. That night, as I lay in her guest room staring at the ceiling, my phone lit up with texts from David, pleas for another chance, accusations about my deception, declarations that Rebecca meant nothing. I silenced it without responding. In the darkness, I felt something I hadn't expected, relief. The weight of suspicion, of pretending, of performing roles, both before and after the accident, had been crushing me. Now, despite the pain and uncertainty ahead, I could breathe again. The accident that could have taken my life had instead given me clarity. By pretending to forget everything, I'd remembered what mattered, my own worth, my ability to face hard truths, and the people who loved me genuinely. Not for who they wanted me to be or what I could do for them, but for who I really was. In losing my husband, I'd found myself again. My name is Sarah Lawson. I am 32 years old,